You tuned in to Internet Radio America. Welcome to Parrots, People, and Pets. Coming to you live from the Mendocino Forest in Northern California. We'd like to welcome the United States and the rest of the free world all around the globe. Your hosts tonight are Michael and Mandolin Cox. Please sit back and enjoy, and welcome. All right, this week we'll be talking about animal behavior, as well as common household and outside items, products that are dangerous for your pet, also smoking around your pet. But first, in case you weren't able to tune in last week, we'd like to first tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. We have the Global Nest Exotic Bird Sanctuary located in the Mendocino Forest in Northern California. What we do, folks, is we take in birds that cannot be rehomed because of their violent nature. You may ask yourself, why are these birds violent? Well, it's very simple. There's people out there that aren't very nice. Some of our birds have been shot up with meth. They've been thrown against walls. They've been used as footballs. And some of them even they've just been tortured. Okay, I really don't want to get into the specifics of the horrors. But to make a long story short, there are 6 counties here in Northern California that we work with animal control. And when these birds are brought in from animal control due to animal cruelty, they become so violent that animal control wants to put them down. They want to euthanize them. Well, folks, we've stopped that from happening. When they get one of these birds in, a lot of the birds that we have are macaws. And a macaw, when he's really, really upset, they can do a lot of damage. They can really, really take you down in a heartbeat. So what we do is we go and get the bird and we bring it here. And what we do here is we give it a forever home. In other words, what I mean by that is that we are a true sanctuary. We're not the type of sanctuary that brings a bird in, takes care of it for a couple months, and then turns around and sells it for profit. We don't breed our birds. We don't adopt them out, as I said, or sell them. They have a forever home with us. I've been working with birds for over 48 years, and I've found that one of the quickest and easiest ways to be able to communicate with these guys, the ones that are most distressed, is you do it with heart. And the way that you do that basically is this. I learned how to get out of my head a long time ago, and I don't mean going crazy. I mean listening to my heart and letting my heart guide me. I've found that over the years that witnessing the animal kingdom and how all other animals communicate without the need for dialogue, I refer to that as the unspoken language. A language that all animals speak, as I said, without the need for dialogue. If you'll notice, every other type of animal, whether it swims in the sea, it fills our forests or skies, or scurries along the land, all seem to be able to get along together in harmony. There isn't the bickering, there isn't the chaos that human beings basically interact between themselves and cause such sorrow, such misunderstanding that, we're all really, in essence, a part of this universal playground. And we all have the right to play in it and enjoy. Just as every single animal that's self-aware has that same kind of right to be treated with dignity and respect. I learned a long time ago that if you actually follow your heart and let your heart speak for you, most animals that in fact, all the animals I've ever come in contact with, whether it's a mountain lion, whether it's a bear, whether it's a coral snake, a scorpion, I mean, it's amazing. If you use your heart to be able to take and communicate with these guys, they're gonna feel your spirit, and they're gonna trust you, and they're not going to feel like they're going to be attacked. And what I mean by that is this. One of the things that people do around animals, especially birds, for instance, let's take those guys, okay? When you come up to a bird that's like, for instance, one of the big green-winged macaws that we have here. And the first time I met one of the Rodney, okay, he's one of my favorite birds. They're all my favorites. I love them all equally. But Rodney's special because when I was introduced to him, I got to see something that really, really amazed me. The people that gave Rodney to me, they said, Michael, we know that you work with birds. We know that you've got a lot of experience with them. But I don't think it's a good idea for you to get near this bird. And I looked at them and I said, well, why? And they said, well, we want to show you something. And I said, okay. So Rodney was inside this room, and he was in a cage, locked down, no toys, nothing. And they put I guess a 2x2 piece of wood, half the size of a 2x4, and probably about, maybe 12, 13, 14 inches long. And they opened up the door of the cage. And very quickly, they just tossed it into the bottom of the cage. And Rodney picked this thing up, and he snapped it in half and hissed and started throwing himself against the door. I immediately knew at that point that whatever this bird had gone through was a horror that no living being should ever have to endure. So that's where I let my heart come into play here. I asked the people to leave the room, and they both looked at me reluctantly, and they said, Michael, you're going to get hurt. We're not covered for this, i.e. insurance, whatever. I said, you know what? I'll take all the responsibility. What you guys need to do is you need to walk out, and you need to walk out now, please. So they did. They walked out, they closed the door, and I sat down in front of the cage and looked at this guy, and all of a sudden it was, I don't know how to explain this, but it was, like I felt my eyes were starting to fill with tears, and because I could feel the anguish and the horror that this beautiful, beautiful spirit trapped in bird clothing was going through. So I opened up the door, and I reached in. Yeah, I did. I reached in, and he hopped up on my hands, and I noticed that one of his feet, or I call them foot fingers, if you will, that 3 of his toes, he didn't have any nails on them, and they were infected and they were bleeding. And I thought, oh my God, on top of whatever this bird has gone through, he's also suffering. That it looks like his nails were pulled out or something. I don't know, but they were infected and the nails were gone. And to make a long story short, we treated him and healed his toes so that he didn't lose his toes, but his nails never grew back. So anyway, I brought this bird and I brought him right to my chest. And I thought, okay, I'm going to pull you in nice and close because if you, just in case you want to take and nail me, I'm going to have you so close that you're not going to be able to do that damage to me, especially my face. And at the same time, I knew that this bird wasn't going to do anything. And I can't, you know what, folks, I can't explain to you why or how I knew this other than listening to my heart. And as soon as I brought him out, and I brought him right to my chest, and I put my right arm around him as I was holding him in my left hand. And he's a heavy guy, too. He's one of the heaviest birds I've ever held in my life. I brought him right to my chest. I put my arm around him. And I remember saying this to him like it was yesterday, and I said it very quietly. I said, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful bird that you are. You're safe now, and no one is ever, ever, ever going to hurt you again as long as I'm on this planet. And I could feel this bird relax against my chest, like as if, his air just kind of went out, like a sigh of like, whoa. And I got up off of my knees, had this bird against my chest, walked over, opened up the door, and the 2 people there that had the bird, that was giving me the bird, I'm not going to really mention their names, it's not that important, but they just, you could see all the color just go out of their faces, as I was standing there in front of them, and I'm going, I think we're going to be okay. And they basically said, take him home. And that's what I did. And Rodney, I found out Rodney was just a baby. He was only like 3 years old. Well, he's 5 now, and he's he's got an awesome, wonderful, wonderful personality. He's pretty much the dominant male, if you will. He lets me pretend that I am once in a while in the house, but he's all the other birds that we have here. We have quite a few blue and golds. We've got a harlequin, and we've got Rodney, and then we have some African grays and some Pioneer parrots, and we separate them. What we do is in the back part of our sanctuary we have our African grays, some gendays, smaller birds, and Pioneer parrots, and then in the other part of the sanctuary we have our larger birds that consist, as I said, of Rodney the greenwing, some blue and golds, a harlequin, a couple severe macaws, and a couple military macaws. And all these guys, the amazing thing is that they all, probably at least 80% of these guys, they all came from situations that were absolutely horrific. Unbelievably. Some of the people, let's put it this way, some of the people that had these birds went to jail. And it made me feel real good, man, in a couple instances where I saw them actually get handcuffed and carted off as I brought the bird out of the house. And so I figured this. If these birds have the ability to take, say, with my heart, and be able to trust in an instant, I want to learn how maybe we could possibly pass that on to human beings. In other words, what I'm saying is this. People have done terrible things to these birds, okay? Terrible. And I can pick one of these guys up and bring it right up close against me, and I can put my arms around it, and it can feel my tears dropping onto its head, from time to time, and you can feel their immediate trust. Can you imagine any human being being able to do something like that? I'm not saying that birds forget what happened. I don't think they ever do. But the beauty of it is that they have the ability, it's a gift, okay? The awesome gift of being able to trust again in a heartbeat. Where people may have to go to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, take all kinds of mind, neuro, remapping drugs. Just horrible things of people that have been in abusive relationships, things of that nature. And do that for years. And some of them never, ever come out of it. But yet a bird that's been beaten up or thrown against the wall repeatedly, for fun and laughed at and made fun of, and knowing that it's alone, and these horrible things called human beings, these big giants around them are laughing and hurting them. And then another human being comes along and picks them up and goes, you know what, I love you, and nobody's going to hurt you again, I promise you. And they respond to that in a heartbeat. It's beautiful. I can't imagine myself doing anything else, folks. I really, really, honestly can't. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I said, somebody could walk up to me right now and offer me a check of $50 million. All I needed to do was just walk away from my birds. You know what I said? I said, you need to spend the money elsewhere. There's no amount of money, there's no amount of anything that I could be offered to be able to take and walk away from these beautiful, beautiful spirits in bird clothing. So, in essence, I kind of just, wanted to give you an idea of who we are, what we do, and why we do it. So, here's my contention regarding people who fear their birds. Did you know that if you walk up to your bird and you show fear, you know how the bird interprets that, and most other animals as well too? They actually interpret that as aggression. In other words, they think that you're going to hurt them because they can't read fear the way that we do. They read it as aggression. And so what they call on is what I refer to as the preemptive strike. In other words, they're going to nail you first because they think you're about ready to take them down. So that's one of the things that I want to share through the coming weeks with you, is that we need to take and work on that individually and feel a little bit more comfortable with yourself, with your animal, and for your animal to be able to feel comfortable with you. And the only way that we can do that, to come full circle, is you have to be able to take and believe in your heart and know that your heart has the magic. Your heart has the magic to say hello and to do it right. Don't let your mind get in the way of what is so. Don't let your mind get in the way of what I referred to earlier as the unspoken language. Relax and let your heart speak for you. And your bird or your cat or your dog or whatever it is that you're afraid of and can't bring it out of the cage and hold it. All you can do is open up the cage and maybe throw something in for it, but never have the luxury of being able to hold it and all. That's no way to live for either of you. Okay? So, as I said, we're going to go through these different types of things in the coming weeks. There's a reason why this show is called Parrots, People, and Pets, because we're going to work on the problems with parrots. We're going to work on the problems with you, the people, and we're going to work on the problems with other types of pets that people have commonly in their homes, not just in the United States, but around the world. Cats, dogs, parrots appear, from what I've done regarding my research, is that they're probably the three most popular pets that people seem to want to have in their homes. So we're going to work on each of these things individually so that we can take and create an awesome relationship for all of these beautiful creatures that are on this planet for us to love, to protect, and to enjoy. Our mission here is to stop the rehoming of animals, especially parrots, especially kittens, cats, especially dogs. All these animals basically that are waiting, for the perfect right home, the perfect right person, the one to give them love, the one to give them respect, the one to give them the best possible food that you can, not junk food like that we get from McDonald's or Burger King or French fries or dairy products and things like that, for instance, that a bird system basically cannot really digest adequately, that creates cysts and tumors and things of that nature down the road. Did you know an African gray, a macaw, the lifespan's anywhere from 80 to 100 years? And how many people have had these birds and ended up finding them in the bottom of the cage after they're 25 or 30 years old or 15 years old? And they take them and they get, I guess the term is called necropsy, where they take them to a vet or something and the vet opens them up to see, what went down, what happened. And they see these incredible cysts and tumors and things like that on their little bodily organs inside of themselves and go, this is what killed your bird. Well, okay, so we've got these problems, but what caused these problems? Foods, human foods, okay. There are certain human foods that a bird system cannot endure. It may take it out of your hand and eat it like there's no tomorrow, man, like a kid in a candy store, man. Just open up the jars, man, get out and let me boogie, and by the end of the day the kid is just like dropped to the floor and he realizes he made an unbelievable mistake here. That's what a lot of you guys are doing, and I say this respectfully. Knock it off. Do your research. Google information. Talk to your veterinarian, okay? Communicate with him. Say, hey, is this particular human food good for my bird? And listen to them. Don't just assume, because when you assume and you don't know, that's when the bird loses and you lose. So we're gonna get into several different aspects of having pets, keeping them safe, loving them, and loving yourself, and improving your own personal relationships so that your relationships with your animals are the best that it could possibly be. Okay, as I said earlier, this week We're going to be talking about animal behavior as well as common household and outside items, products that are dangerous for your pet, and also smoking around your pet. You know, since it's springtime, one of the most common dangers is within fertilizers. Those of you guys with yards, gardens, please listen up. Fertilizers can be poisonous to any animal that comes in contact with it. Most of the time, the toxicity levels are mild to moderate, but it depends on how much exposure your pet has had to it. For instance, the ball and the dog and the sprinkler. Okay, we can all imagine this. Dog's out there running around through the sprinkler on the lawn. You're tossing him the ball, he's rolling around and stuff, and you've just fertilized your lawn. Okay? Do you realize how many people just aren't even aware of this? Okay? He picks up the ball in his mouth, the ball drops back onto the lawn. He rolls on the lawn, etc., picking up parts, some of the fertilizer and things of that nature. He gets it in his mouth from the ball repeatedly. And people just don't get it. They just don't get it. Some of the most simplest things to look out for. So this is another reason we're doing the program that we're doing, is we want to make you aware, all right, of some of the things that we have a tendency of overlooking and making it just a little bit better for our animals, as I said, and for ourselves. The symptoms, one of the symptoms you can look for, if your dog has, for instance, been exposed to this, a little too much, if you will, watch for drooling, watch for nausea, watch for vomiting, diarrhea, unnormal posture due to stomach pain and difficulty in breathing. Watch for these because it can be deadly. The reason that fertilizers are so toxic is because the elements that it contains, as well as herbicides, fungicides, and pesticides. We all know what those words mean, right? If you don't, look them up. The iron and nitrogen in fertilizers are most deadly components, which can lead to severe poisoning. If your pet consumes a large amount of fertilizer, it can form a concretion in the abdomen, which can actually lead to bowel obstruction and severe painful inflammation of the pancreas. I'm referring to pancreatitis. That's another one for you to look up. Even organic fertilizers, okay, are toxic because they contain cocoa meal, which can be found in the form of cocoa bean hulls. How many of you guys have that stuff spread around your garden or spread around your little trees and things of that nature? Think again, okay? Cocoa meal alone can cause severe diarrhea, convulsions, and even death, depending upon the amount that was consumed. Even if it's safe for plants, it can even be toxic to humans as well. Some organic fertilizers have found to contain Amenta muscaria. It's a mushroom that can be poisonous when eaten in certain amounts, as well as poison oak and poison ivy. Please, please adhere to this. I'm giving you some really good, solid advice, and probably you should be writing this down so that you can remind yourself tomorrow, all right, to really look into this the next time you take Puppy out to the lawn and play, or you're using cocoa meal around your gardens, around your little trees and your walkways and things of that nature. If you've got an animal, you know what, I don't really think the choice is that difficult. Get rid of that stuff, okay? Just get it out of there, because you're asking for heartache is what you're doing. It's a time bomb just waiting to go off, and you're going to lose. Now, one other thing that I'd like to mention to you is smoking around your birds. There's a lot of people out there that smoke, and there's a lot of people that know that they shouldn't. And there's a lot of people having a hard time stopping. Here's something to encourage you, okay? Did you know that secondhand smoke contains over 4,000 chemicals? I say 4,000, okay? Including 69 compounds that are known to cause cancer. Anyone who breathes secondhand smoke is breathing in formaldehyde, ammonia, cyanide, arsenic, carbon monoxide, methane, and thousands of other chemicals. The concentrations of these carcinogenic chemicals is actually higher in secondhand smoke than in the fumes directly inhaled by smokers. Please listen up. Secondhand smoke is classified as a Class A carcinogen, the same classification given to asbestos. Your parrot, all right, your parrot has a very, very sensitive and intricate respiratory system. The respiratory system of a bird is more efficient than ours in transferring oxygen. This means that toxins inhaled are delivered equally as well. Because of this efficiency, a parrot will succumb to the same level of toxic fumes that would be tolerated by any mammal. Feather destruction and plucking, here's a good one, can result from smoking around your birds. Did you know that? Cigarette smoke rises into the air because it's heated. When it cools, gravity brings it back down. Guess what? It lands on your birds. It lands on their perches, their cage bars, their toys, and their food. If your hands are coated with chemicals from holding the cigarette, it is easily transferred to your bird. So, I say this. If you're going to smoke, go outside and do it. And smoke yourself into oblivion, all right? But be at least kind enough to not bring your birds down with you. Please. I had someone on Facebook a while back that lives in one of our southern states where it's legal to smoke in restaurants, and even if you have your kids at the table and things of that nature. And she told me, oh, I've been smoking around my birds, for quite some time, and I've never seen any problem with them. And I said, you know what, you're an idiot. And she goes, excuse me? I said, you're an idiot. And she goes, well, why would you say that? And I said, because haven't you done any research on what secondhand smoke can do? And she goes, no, have you? And I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I have. I said, about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from a very dear friend of mine. This was last year sometime. I said, I got a call from a dear friend of mine, and he said, Michael, come over right away. He goes, my bird's dying. So it took me only about 10 minutes. He lived up here in the forest too. And I drove over to his house, and I walked in the door, and the whole house was filled with cigarette smoke and stuff. And a couple beer bottles and some liquor bottles were on the table and stuff. And he's standing in the kitchen there, and he's holding his bird. And tears are running down his face, and stuff is just oozing out of his bird's eyes. It was a little cockatiel, okay? And he said, I think my bird's dying. And I said, no kidding. And he looked at me and he goes, well, what? And I said, look at how much smoke you have in your house here. And you could see the birds, just like trying to get air. And I guess the bird had been exposed to it for so long that the bird didn't make it. And this man just dropped down to his knees and he cried his eyes out because he said, Michael, he goes, I had no idea. I had no idea. It never dawned on me at all that smoking inside the house would bother my bird. And I looked at him. Part of me wanted to punch him, okay? But another part of me, the heart part of me, made me go over, lift him up off the floor, off his knees, and I put my arms around him. I said, you didn't know, okay? You didn't do something knowingly that this was going to kill your bird. You just didn't know. So if you're planning on getting another bird, and he stopped me, he looked at me right in the eyes, he goes, and he looked at his daughter. His daughter also, they both smoked inside the house. And he said, we're not smoking in here anymore ever, and that's it. And she went over and she proceeded to pick up the ashtrays. They opened up the windows and turned on some fans and stuff like that. And he looked at me and he goes, I will never, ever, ever again smoke inside the house. He goes, you know what? This has been so traumatic for me that I don't think I ever want to smoke again, period. And I looked at him and I said, well, you have your bird to thank for that, don't you? And he nodded his head up and down. He goes, yeah. I said, okay, you've learned something. And so that's one of the things I want to share with you guys, okay? Just because we're not aware of certain things that can be harmful to our pets doesn't mean that we have the right to shuck the responsibility. This show is here to teach you. We're here to learn from you as well, too. The folks that want to call in and ask questions or share information to make it better for our pets in this beautiful universal playground we get to play in. That's what we're about. That's what you're about.
There's been cases where birds have mutilated their feet due to the fact that their perches were covered in cigarette nicotine, smoke, and their toes and their feet became so irritated their feathers will pick up the odor of a cigarette, and it often stays with them until all the feathers have remolted. Sometimes, a bird will remove these tainted feathers on their own, resulting in self-mutilation. So those of you, that are still feel the need after listening to this, still feel the need to smoke in your house or smoke around your bird, shame on you, okay? Shame on you. And just stop it. Symptoms of nicotine poisoning include twitching, excitedness, panting, salivation, vomiting, increased heart rate, and collapse, and eventually coma and cardiac arrest.
For moderation, if ever. Salted foods are also very bad because the salt actually makes the bird's brain shrink over time. Some of the dangerous toys for birds, I didn't even know this until recently, but happy huts. They're a good toy. You just have to keep your eye on them because if your bird likes to chew on them and mutilate the happy hut, eventually, elastic bands and strings can become visible, and then, the bird can eventually choke or hang itself. If the bird doesn't mess with it, it's not a big deal, but if it does, I would keep a close eye on it. Paper towel, toilet paper rolls, those things the toxic glue that they use to put those things together can be very harmful. A lot of toys that have hanging strings, obviously that's dangerous because they can get wrapped up in them when you're not paying attention, and they can choke. Or they can, strangle their limbs, or worse. Nylon is actually the worst kind of toy that you can give them because if the bird actually ingests any of it, it will never dissolve, and it just stays in your bird's crop or digestive system, and eventually it does lead to death if it does ingest enough nylon, which is usually found in rope toys. Rope toys they're just dangerous in general unless, you keep a really, really close eye.
All right, guys, we've got a live caller. You're on the air on Internet Radio America.
We're on hold. Hello, we're here. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, it's Bob Courtwright.
Hello, Bob.
I'm Georgia. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Welcome to another day on the perch, buddy.
Always glad to chime in.
Awesome. And what beautiful information do you have to share with the world, my friend?
Well, I love Mandy's comments on the toxicity and things like that. And there's so many things in the household and out in the environment that we're used to, and probably the biggest one that I wanted to add and emphasize was cedar chips and cedar bedding. As you mentioned with the redwoods, nothing grows around it, and they use that with dogs and cats because it kills fleas and ticks, and it also kills feathers. We had Milo, who'd spent 11 years on cedar bedding. It's amazing he was alive. The little parrot was naked, completely naked, because it had killed all his feather follicles.
Bless his heart.
Again, it was an idiotic pet store owner that says to the buyer, if you don't want to smell parrot poop, line it with cedar bedding. Well, we all know pretty much parrot poop doesn't have a smell anyway, for the most part, if you keep his cage clean. Then the little guy lived, and he actually grew 2 or 3 feathers back on his chest, and, and over the years he was at the rescue. And the other thing is, I don't know if Mandy mentioned it or not, is split rings on the toys. You always have to use any ring has to be a welded or soldered ring. The split rings can catch their nails or beaks and hang them up.
Absolutely. I've heard horror stories regarding that. Folks, listen to them. Go on.
Yeah. And I'll give you a little update. I mentioned Oscar, the naked eclectus, the one that was too ugly.
Yeah, yes.
You remember the little guy? Well, I no longer have any peace and quiet at my house because he has discovered, he was always afraid of the hardwood flooring because he's having traction on it. Well, he's decided now, he's figured that out. I came home yesterday, he was sitting on the couch waiting for me. So, and he steps up and down just within a week. He's just totally changed his whole attitude. He's loving on everybody and he's wanting to snuggle. He lets, even though he's getting feathers back, he's so naked. I can still just pet all over him, and he's really just a tribute to the things that you do, Michael, with your birds, and the things that you teach people, and the lessons you give out about the love and care. What the rewards are.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. Folks, this is what I'm trying to get across to you. Okay, you've got friends out there that want birds. You've got friends out there, okay, right now that have birds and they're frustrated with them. The only way to do it and to do it right is you have to do it with heart. You have to take and put your brain on the back burner for a minute, okay, and do it with heart. What I mean by that is animals, no matter what it is, no matter what type of animal it is, will pick up on what you truly feel inside, no matter what you say to them, how big your grin is. They're going to know you, and they're going to see you. It's like a screaming jet that shoots straight through your heart, man. They're right there, and they know you. They're right on top of exactly everything that you're about. So if you want to take and make your bird, for instance, you have a bird that you're afraid of, or your bird's afraid of you, all right? Nine times out of 10, excuse me, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just
okay.
Oscar.
Anyway, 9 times out of 10, what I've found that most people that have problems with their animals, like I said, whether it's a bird, it's a cat, it's a dog, whatever, it's not the problem with the animal, it's the problem with the person. A lot of people are really, you know what, I mean, I still want to maintain my faith in human beings, but I have found within the animal kingdom a beautiful, beautiful discovery. They enjoy having another day on the planet where people go, okay, well, I've got a problem with my boyfriend, I've got a problem with my girlfriend, so I'm going to go home and I'm going to hit the wall, or I'm going to have a couple drinks or whatever, and then I'm going to go over and I'm going to kick the cage of birds in. Because the bird all of a sudden is screaming. And the bird's screaming, why? Because the bird's going like, chill. I'd like to come out and I'd like to be held for a minute. I'd like to have some feeling here. I'm here in your home, You're supposed to love me. You're supposed to care about me. And that's what to come full circle, that's what I'm trying to communicate here. Many of these issues can be resolved if you communicate with your bird with heart. Like Mandy said last week, if you're depressed about something, you feel icky about something or whatever, you know what? Let it out. Let it out. And the bird's going to then understand. The cat's going to understand. The dog's going to understand. If you don't feel embarrassed about letting tears run down your face, okay, and saying, you know what, right now I just don't feel good. But rather than to take it out on your animal, take your animal out and hold your animal and feel the love and feel the magic that these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful spirits have inside of themselves, and allow them to flood your heart and heal you. You're there for them. They're not there for you. Okay? You're there for them. We're the bigger picture here, okay? But yet at the same time, we're also the smallest picture. For many, many years as a child, I used to think to myself, what would it be like to be able to actually shrink myself up really, really small, crawl inside of a bird, and look out its eyes and see what the bird sees? Just look around. Listen to what's on the TV. Listen to mom and dad fighting. Listen to go by and throw a ball at me, and not be able to do anything about it at all. And how many days would it take for you to suddenly realize that, you know what, maybe these guys just don't care about me at all?
All right, we got a break coming up here on Internet Radio America. Stand by.
We'll be right back.
Thanks, Michael.
You're very welcome.
And if we're off the air, welcome to that 501.
We're going to take a short pause so the people that fund this program have the opportunity to share something with you. Stick around. We'll be back.
Hate cleaning your gutters the hard way? Put your ladder, gloves, rake, blower, and hose away and never pay another penny for gutter cleaning services again. Keep your feet safely on the ground with this lightweight, safe, fast, and easy-to-use, American-made, do-it-yourself gutter clutter buster. And stop those gutter cleaning woes today. Log on to order the Gutter Clutter Buster for only $29.99. Add 54-inch extensions at $17.99 each. Or own the 3-piece kit for an amazingly low price of $59.99. Order now.
Go to www.gutterclutterbuster.com. Made in America.
What if the army... I'm an American. Red, white, and blue. And I'm a citizen of this world.
This just in on Internet Radio America. Breaking news. Jay and the Duke have just taken over the entire bandwidth for exactly 1 hour every Sunday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with the message of freedom and liberty. The First Amendment to the Constitution prevents any force of tyranny from stopping them. This is a red alert. I repeat, a red alert. The revolution has just seized the radio. This is the Radio Revolution.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This week we've been talking about safe and unsafe toys. We wanted to mention some of our favorite stores that sell these toys. My Safe Bird store. I mean, it's kind of all in the name. They sell only safe bird toys. They're based in the U.S. Another great store that's based in Canada, New Brunswick, Canada, is Chirp, the letter N, Dales, D-A-L-E-S, petsupply.com. You can find them on Facebook, too. It's the same name as their web address, except there's spaces in between. But the lady that owns this company is amazing. She'll work with you to get you whatever you need, and they offer competitive prices on all of their extensive line of products. She's a pleasure to work with. Some companies that offer some safe cat and dog toys are Go Dog, The Kong Company, Planet Dog, and West Paw Design. And we also just wanted to let you know that there's also another show on InternetRadioAmerica.com. Trace hosts it. It's called Pets Rescue, Etc., and it's on at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesdays. He has his own rescue, and, for additional bird information or questions, you can always tune in on Wednesdays.
Thank you so much. Are you still there?
Yep, sorry. Phone got hung up.
No, not a problem. Okay, so with that information that Mandy shared with you, please also write that down, okay? There's a lot of different bird toy companies out there, folks, that will offer you toys and things of that nature for perhaps maybe half the price or even more, okay, rather than of the toy stores, birds that Mandolin mentioned. But you know what? They're ordering these things out of China. And those of you that watch the news are very well aware, hopefully, of the fact that the lead and the different carcinogens that they put in their bird toys, they put in their dolls, and things of that nature is not only toxic for human beings, but it's also toxic for your animals. So there's a few superstores out there that promote a lot of these Chinese goods that basically are poisoning our animals. And I'm not going to mention their names, but when I say superstore, I'm sure something comes to mind. Don't buy your toys there, okay? And don't buy your bird seed or your bird food from there either. Some of their bird seeds and things of that nature sit in warehouses for a couple of years, okay, before they even get onto the shelf. Just don't do it. Go to your local feed store or go to somebody online and get something really good. For instance, Rowdy Bush, okay? Rowdy Bush, believe it or not, is about an hour and a half down the road from where we live, from the Mendocino Forest. They make an awesome, awesome product. We feed that to all of our birds. It's got everything in it that your bird needs. Never, never, ever any recalls on their product. Zupreme, we used to use Zupreme as well, too. Until about a year ago, all of a sudden, there was a big recall. And we got 3 African grays and almost died because they put too much calcium in one of the formulas in several of the batches that they put out there on the market for us. So I don't use them anymore. And Zupreme, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you a good rap. But Rowdy Bush, I am. For those of you that want to take and make sure that your bird is getting all the nutrients that it needs, okay, go with Rowdy Bush, all right? They're online. Really, really easy to pick up on, and they'll send your stuff directly to your house as well, too.
All right, we got a live caller now on the air. Welcome to Internet Radio America. You're on the air.
Okay, live caller. Who are you?
Hi, Michael. This is Chris.
Hello, Chris. From San Dimas, California.
Yes, and I'm having an excellent adventure.
Oh, most excellent adventure. Those of you that Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Adventure, okay? Well, Chris is a very big part of that. All right. Anyway, go on, Chris.
Well, I really love your topic today, Michael. It is a topic that is very important. And I'd like to mention, if you don't mind, that one of the favorite toys that people give their dogs is rawhide. Dogs cannot digest rawhide, and if they eat enough of it, it will clog them up, and they will not be able to eat. They'll literally starve to death, feeling full, because they've got an intestine full of rawhide.
Good information. You know what? There's a lot of those rawhides that are being sold, too.
Sure are.
Excellent, excellent information. Okay, folks, listen up, because you know what? The person who's talking to you right now is a very, very dear friend of mine. He's got a beautiful flock. He's a beautiful human being, but most of all, he's extremely intelligent, and he never, ever, in all the time that I've known him, has ever said anything that isn't true. He won't say anything unless he's investigated and he's pushed the envelope on that. So, good information, Chris. Okay, rawhide.
Yes.
I always wondered about those. Okay, I thought, you know what? Anything that's sold in mass like that for such an inexpensive price, there's got to be a catch. Just like, oh, you want a brand new car? Oh, cool. But what's the catch? All right. So, Chris, bless your heart and thank you for bringing that up. Letting folks know. So if you got rawhide toys, okay, that you're giving to your babies and things of that nature, chuck them in the garbage and don't buy them anymore. Okay?
Don't buy them. Don't buy them. They're horrible. I almost lost my Dalmatian from it. And thank God I gave him the split pea soup, and he got over it. 9 years after that, he was still going. But the other thing, pardon me?
Go ahead, Chris.
The other thing I'd like to mention, Michael, is GSM. The GSM vegetables and fruits that are being marketed right now are so toxic. I mean, if the GSM corn or grapes or whatever are able to kill the little animals, the bugs, the insects that eat them, Imagine what they're doing to your pets.
You're speaking of GSM?
GSM.
Okay, I know who they are. Why don't you tell the rest of the world who they are and how to avoid them, my friend?
Or GSO, I'm sorry, genetically modified organisms. And Monsanto has produced a corn that is now being sold worldwide, the seeds are, and the farmers are flocking to it in mass because it is bug resistant, drought resistant, but above all, insect resistant. And they can plant this, and if the bugs go after the corn, it kills them. And
okay, let me ask you this real quick, Chris. Say hypothetically, well, not hypothetically, but, you know, the novice person, you know, myself, other people that, you know, learn sometimes from our mistakes, and hopefully we do. You go into a supermarket, or you go into a store, you go into a feed store. How do you know whether or not these products are a direct derivative of this manufacturer that's wanting to take and do this worldwide, cut the cost, you know, just like China, you know, let's sell a $20 bird toy for $5, all right, but let's put a whole lot of lead in it so that your bird, instead of living 80 years, is going to live 30. How are people able to take and discover whether or not their products, these foods and things of this nature, have come from such a shabby and disgusting, if you will, folks, organization?
Well, one way you can be absolutely positive to stay away from it is to, and this is right back to what you were talking about at the top of the show, Michael, the small organic farmer. The farmer that is not using that seed but is using a more expensive seed, a more hybrid seed that is staying away from the Monsanto produced. Walmart. If you buy your corn at Walmart, you're buying that corn.
See, I didn't use the name earlier when I said Superstore, but you did, so, you know, I'll share half of the legal costs with you on this one, Chris, bless your heart. So I guess...
I apologize. I'll say it.
You don't have to apologize. Bottom line is, I mean, they've spent billions of dollars going in and trashing the mom-and-pop supermarket that we all used to go to as kids, okay? My respect for them is equal to the IQ of a box of hammers, all right?
Yeah,
I mean, it really is.
Well, let me share with you the final point on that, Michael, is the active ingredient in it is dioxin, the same thing that was in Agent Orange.
Okay, well, there's probably a lot of people that aren't familiar with what Agent Orange is, but folks, it's basically this. It's something that will go in and tear your body up from the inside out, all right? And they're using, I guess, some of these inhibitors, if you will, to grow super crops, all right, that not only for human consumption, but for pet consumption as well, too. So I would make a recommendation. Chris, bless your heart, and I love you, buddy. I would make a recommendation, and that is this. If you want to take and go into a superstore, you want to go into your normal pet store, your chained pet store, if you will. I'm not going to mention any names, okay, and buy their foods, their products, etc. Be very, very careful. It might really behoove you to actually go to Google and look for organic gardeners. Look for organic foods. It might cost you $5 to have them ship you 50 pounds of something that you know is going to be safe and good for your bird. But don't take Google's word for it. You get that name and you investigate it. You look into, basically, other people that have bought their products. You research that. It's like all of our birds, all of our cats, all of our dogs, our gerbils, doesn't matter what it is, okay? Bottom line is these are all beautiful spirits, man, that we love and that love us. Take the time to research, because you do the same thing for your child. You got a newborn baby, okay? You going to go to the store and buy Gerber? I don't think so, but I'm not going to tell you why. Just read the labels. So take the time to really research that, because the bird is entitled, or the cat or the dog is entitled to be able to live its life out fully and not have you as a human being, because you want to cut costs, not care enough or give a damn enough, because you want to save a couple of dollars and go ahead and feed it because you've got other things on your plate. And if you're that kind of person, give your animal to somebody else that gives a damn. So, Chris, bless your heart, man, for sharing that. I've heard about Monsanto, okay? I've heard about some of these genetically hybrid different types of companies that will inject all these different hormones and things of that nature into, like Kentucky Fried Chicken, Church's Chicken, you know. You take a 1 week old chicken and you inject it with hormones, and 7 weeks later it weighs 6 pounds. Okay, and then they ship them off and cook them. You know, that's not the way to go. And the only way we can take and stop this is we no longer buy their products. We buy American-made, true, organic, true products that's not only safe for human consumption, but safe for your bird, safe for all of your pets. And if you got to pay a couple dollars more, you know, then you know what? Do it. And if you don't love your animal that much or care about that animal that much, my birds, all of my birds here, I'm not even going to tell you how much money I spend a month, but you know what? They eat better than I do.
I'll tell you what the worst part, Michael, is that the corn that Monsanto is putting out, the active ingredient, is the same active ingredient that's in Roundup.
Makes sense.
And people spray that in their yards like crazy, and then their dogs run out and get it. Their kids run out and get it. You're basically poisoning them with something that will take them decades to kill them. They may not see anything now. Your bird might eat that corn, it might be fine, and you might not notice anything until years and years and years down the road.
Chris, that's a good point. And folks, basically what he's telling you is this, that corn is used as a component in many different types of bird foods, okay? It's used as a filler. All right, I hate that term, but you know, you think you're getting something pure, and you're getting like 3% something that's pure, or 97%. That's filler. And corn they use in a lot of different bird foods, a lot of different bird treats.
It's also in a lot of dog and cat foods.
Absolutely. So, Chris, bless your heart for sharing that with us. And folks, look into Monsanto. Look into these companies that are putting these products, these things out there for your pets, and spend a few more dollars and don't support them, because as long as you support them and you buy things from your superstores and your pet stores that don't give a damn because all they're about is making money, then you know who loses? Your pet does. And you know who loses next? You do, because your heart starts to crash and go, what in the hell did I do wrong? Do it right, make it simple, and do it from your heart.
Thank you, Michael. Have a good day.